All right, we are now live. We are live on a Wednesday night. It feels kind of weird on a Wednesday night, but we are here. And so this will be one of the last times we get together for this year, 2022. And so you guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, please go ahead and put them in the comment section. It is working. I see people they're on. So I am so excited. Um, Apologize for last night, you guys. We had the wrong link last night, but looks like we have the right link tonight. And so, if I forget to say it, happy holidays to everybody. Happy holidays. We've got Keith Bennett is here. So Keith is here. Karen Parrish is here.
Hello, everyone.
We'll talk to Karen, and then we'll answer all your questions. I'll do somewhat of a review of the year. Hopefully, Tarsha will be on in a few minutes to give us some insight on the mortgage side and answer some of those questions. But overall, it's been a fantastic year. I don't know, Keith, that we kept up with all the wins this year. I know next year I think we need to do that. But lots of wins.
Quite
lots
a few,
of wins
yes.
Here. A lot of wins. So we'll make sure that we keep up. We'll keep up in the new year. And so, all right. So we've got a question already. Brian is here. And so we'll get to all the questions. But Karen, we've got Karen Parrish is in the building. And so, Karen, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and just give us a little background on you.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite, Greg. So I've been with Greg and Keith for about 2.5 years. A couple of years ago, Greg did a video on Facebook talking about real estate investing and what you need to do to be successful. So I joined him 2.5 years ago and been with him ever since. I've been a platinum coaching student. This is my second time around. My mindset is different. Mindset is everything. So, here I am. My hustle is different because my mindset is different.
Okay. And why did you decide to get into real estate investing?
So I have a son. He's married, 3 granddaughters. At the time, it was just one. I have a set of twins now, and wanted to leave a legacy for him, generational wealth. But in my mindset, I was thinking in order for him to have generational wealth, I needed to first have it myself, and then put myself in a better position, and then I want to retire.
And so you joined us. And so what has the experience been like for you?
So the first time I did it, I just, sent out postcards and thought that was going to get me where I needed to be. But then each time I talked to Keith, I learned that I needed to do a little bit more, double my efforts. And in all transparency, postcards just wasn't getting it for me. I needed to do more. Cold calling was, I was actually terrified to cold call. But now it's like my primary lead generation activity. So the experience, I would say that there are a lot of gurus like yourself and Keith, but being in the coaching program, I have access to you. I can ask questions. I can learn. I have your experience. So I'm not afraid to jump in the pool and take action. Is one of the things that you say all the time. So for every piece of advice that you have given other people, I put my name in that as if you were talking directly to me.
Good. And that's the best attitude to have. In terms of like technology, CRMs, what are you using?
PropStream. I absolutely love PropStream. It's the best for me.
And why do you like PropStream? Because I highly recommend PropStream. We've done a number of trainings this year on PropStream. And so why do you say you like PropStream?
So it's so much more than the 10,000 leads that we get. It has comms. It has the after repair value. You can do a postcard campaign. You can create your postcards. Just learned recently within like the last month that you can do an email campaign that worked well for me. It's just so many facets to PropStream, and every time I touch it, I learn something new. So I think that, I mean, there are other customer relation management tools out there, but PropStream doesn't do everything, like it doesn't do text messaging, but for everything else that you need as far as real estate investing, managing your list, managing your leads, it's great for me.
Yeah, and so I would say for the serious investor, we have to utilize technology,
Right.
and PropStream has everything for the real estate investor.
It
It's
does.
it's an all in one package. And
Exactly.
so if you want leads, the leads are there. Skip trace, the ability to skip trace, they're there. Lists are there.
Right.
Um, it just goes on and on. And Keith, you
And
can
you,
go out of a few things.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that comes to mind also is your ability to filter specific leads.
absolutely.
So, there's some people that believe in not just calling up landlords, but senior citizen landlords. They're thinking that maybe they're getting tired, and so that could be kind of a niche for the investor out there to really detail the list that they're getting. I know, Greg, you like to search on lists for out of state landlords.
Yeah, so out of state landlords has worked best for me. Pre foreclosure lists over the years have worked best for me. And so I would say, me personally, those are my two favorite lists: out of state absentee owners and pre foreclosures. And somebody else might say something different. Like you can pull a list of landlords in a certain zip code who own their house free and clear. And so
Right.
you can pull that list. And some
Right.
people have had a lot of success with that. But those two lists are my favorite. And so PropStream, you guys got to get it. It's just as simple as that. When I study the top, say, for example, wholesalers across the country, those that are doing at least $100,000 a month in wholesaling, some are doing $1 million a month. They
PropStream.
all use PropStream.
And
When I look
guys,
at YouTube videos and things like that, it's PropStream.
let me just add also, Greg, that for you guys, Greg has created. We have a relationship with PropStream, so we have a special link, giving us a special price. So if you're interested, let me know.
All right, so yeah, we can get you that PropStream. And so, Karen, tell me what's next. What's next for you? What are you working on? Maybe what are your goals for 2023?
So my goals for 2023, really, I thought that I wrote them out over the Thanksgiving holidays, but I realized that they weren't specific enough. So besides buying my own primary home, I want to buy a multifamily, and I want to have 3 doors before I retire at the end of next year. So I really have to. So wholesaling will always be my number one, but in order to have the generational wealth, I'll need to buy and hold, and then take that plunge and do the buy and flip, just to get the experience. But you and I will definitely have a lot of conversations before I do that.
Absolutely. And what my goal for everybody, just to add on to that, is at least one buy and hold next year, at least one. Because when you do that, you're building wealth, and just one door is a step in the right direction. Actually, it's a huge step in the right direction. Karen's aspirations are a lot bigger. I see, a number of our students on here like Dana. I think Dana, I want to say Dana said he wanted at least 4 properties next year, which is great, and he'll do it. Dana will do it. But just one, you guys, because one, you're adding cash flow, so you're supplementing your income, but then you're taking advantage of an appreciating market where your asset is appreciating, it's growing, and you can take advantage of that equity at some point. And so you want to just keep doing that. And then you have a hard asset that, you've got options. You can sell 10 years from now. You can, if you buy it right, pay it down, pay it off. Now that cash flow is increased, and you can use that cash flow for retirement times 10 or times 20, or if you get into multifamily, times 100 doors. And so whatever that goal is, but let's just start with one. Let's get our feet wet. Let's work on our credit, work on our financing. Karen talked about wholesaling to get some cash up to then either buy and hold a property to live in, or buy an investment property. And so we've got to do all those kinds of things.
So Greg, can I just add one thing to that? You have to be in the right mindset. So you have to have the credit, you have to have the financing, but your mindset has to be such that you have to work through your obstacles. I had a pivotal conversation with Keith in August. That's when my mindset really changed, because I kept talking about retirement, but I didn't have a date of when I was going to retire. So my mindset had to change so my hustle can change. In the meantime, credit and building up your finances.
Right. And so that's good. And then also I think it's goal setting. And so in essence, we're talking a lot about goals.
Right.
And so you have to set a goal. And if your goal, for example, is to at least buy one property, or to make $100,000, whether on paper in terms of equity or in cash, be a wholesale a number of properties or flip, like you've got to have that goal. And so we set that goal. And so we start with the end in mind, and then we come back and say, okay, what are the things, what are the 3 or 4 or 5 things I need to be doing in order to hit that goal, so that by next year, this time, I've accomplished that goal. Now, I have seen through our platinum coaching students, my real estate agents, the goal was either the goal was so high that they got frustrated and kind of gave up, or kind of overdid. I have a real estate agent investor, and her goal was so high and her ambition was so high, she just bought too many properties in Baltimore this year and got stuck and had to auction them off. So we want to move cautiously, because we want to minimize our mistakes so that we make a lot of money. Right. And so we just have to be conscious of that. But we do have to set that goal, and we cannot be afraid to go for it. We're in a very fortunate area where, right in our backyard is Washington, D.C., which is one of the best areas in the country to invest in, because you're always going to get appreciation in a capital city of a country. And so we're right here with DC, the capital city of the US. And then to the north, we have the number one residential rental area in the United States, which is Baltimore. And so there's no excuse for us, you guys. We're in a great area. It's just a matter of, like Karen said, your mindset and what your strategy is going to be, and then what the plan is in order to get to those goals. And so, Keith, why don't we go ahead? I know we've got a few questions. I see 1 or 2 questions here in the comment section, but let's start answering some questions.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So Alicia has some questions, Greg. Here's question number 1. Can you please provide an example of the process for buying a property via the auction from the standpoint of a wholesale?
All right. So Alicia wants to know, how do you wholesale an auction property, basically?
Correct.
It sounds like.
Breakdown of the buyer's premium, that sort of thing.
All right. So whenever we buy an investment property, especially if it's 4 units or less, we're going to use the Mayo formula. So we start there. And so, say for example, there's a property that's being auctioned off. It's a split foyer it's a split foyer in Fort Washington. After repair value is 400. And so we do the Mayo formula, 70% of the after repair value minus repair cost. When we run the Mayo will probably give us around 200,000. So which means we don't want to bid over that 200,000. Now for auction property, I like to go a little less. And so I'd like to go at about 60%. And so 60% of the after repair value minus repair costs. And so whatever that number is, probably somewhere around 190, I would imagine, 185, 190. We're not going to bid over that price, which also means, like you said, in most of the auctions, the buyer has to pay a commission. And so we have to pay a commission to the auctioneer. Now, they don't call it a commission, they call it a buyer's premium. And it's it can change, but generally speaking, it's about 5%. So we want to include that 5%. And so if we go at 60% of the ARV minus repair costs, and I'm just going to do the numbers real quick. And so let's say that we have an ARV at 400,000 times 60% gives us 240 minus, let's say the repair cost is 80,000. It gives us 160 actually. And then if we put in another 5% for that, so we're not going over 160 for our bid. And then if we include another 5% times 5%, that's $8,000. In this scenario, we're going to bid no more than 153 because we're going to include the buyer's premium into that number. And so then we want that number to be no more than 160. So with the buyer's premium of $8,000, we're going to subtract the $8,000 buyer premium from the 160 to get to the 153. So we're not going to bid over 153. Then if we win the bid, so obviously you've got to bring your deposit. It's going to state what the deposit is. You bring the deposit, bring a cashier's check, make it out to yourself. If you win the bid, you're going to sign it over to the auctioneer. We're going to put the buyer's name. It's not going to be your name. It's going to be what I call a generic LLC. And so the buyer is going to be 123 Main Street LLC, because 123 Main Street LLC, you can easily assign that LLC. And so let's say that the address of the property is 123 Main Street LLC. I mean, if the address is 123 Main Street, Laurel, Maryland, then I would put the LLC 123 Main Street LLC as the buyer's name when you sign the contract, and then you give the deposit. And these are the ones that you're bidding either in front of the courthouse steps or at a property. And so that's basically how you do it. And then you wholesale that deal. So you give a cash buyer a call. Let's say you give me a call, Greg, I'm going to be bidding. I'd like to bid on this property. What do you think a cash buyer would buy it for? Or what would you think you would buy it for? I would probably say in this scenario, I would buy it for, let's say 170. And so if you can get it at what I say 153, you just made yourself $17,000, or if my math is right, or $17,000. And so that's how you do it. That's how you wholesale an auction property. You're not the buyer, cannot be in your name. It has to be in an LLC that's a new LLC. And then when you win the bid, you just assign that LLC, assign the rights. I'll take over that LLC, and then pay you, in this case, $17,000. So that's how you do it. And then if she has any questions about that, just reach out to me.
Okay. Walk us through, Greg, wholesaling a short sale. How do you know if it's a deal?
And so it's everything that I just said.
Okay.
It's everything that I just said. So on a wholesale deal, you're running the Mayo. The Mayo has to fit. Let's say it's that property in Fort Washington. So short sales you get to look at. The reason why we go lower on the Mayo on the maximum allowable offer on an auction property, because of a lot of the auction properties you don't get an opportunity to look on the inside. So to be safe, we want to bid about 60% instead of 70%. On a short sale, we're going to go 70% of the after repair value minus repair costs. That's what a cash buyer would buy for. A wholesaler needs to get it at 65%. And so you're simply going to run your numbers, and that's the offer you're going to make really to the bank. But the offer is going to be directly to the homeowner, and then the bank, their asset, the loss mitigation department is going to do an analysis on the property. They're going to get your contract. They're going to send out an agent, or what we call a BPO, broker's price opinion, to give an analysis of the property. And then they're going to determine whether your offer is going to be the right offer. And then they're going to either accept it, reject it, or counter your offer. And again, that short sale is just like the auction property. You're going to, on that short sale, you're going to put it in an LLC that a new LLC that's easily assigned to another cash buyer. And so the mechanics of wholesaling a short sale and the mechanics of wholesaling a auction property are the same.
Okay. Greg, how do you best calculate average closing cost for the end buyer for on and off market deals?
So how do you calculate
closing cost for the end buyer on and off market deals?
All right. So if you're a wholesaler, you don't calculate it. You let them calculate it. You're
Right.
just running your numbers. You're putting it under contract to whatever the Mayo says to put it under contract for, and then you're assigning it. And then you let them worry about their closing costs, because every cash buyer closing cost is going to be different. Some cash, like I've been talking to a cash buyer, and all they do is they pay cash for all their properties. So their closing cost is going to be a lot less than, say, for example, a cash buyer who's getting a hard money loan, a cash buyer that's getting it financed through a traditional bank. And so closing costs is just different for the end buyer, depending on how they're financing the property. But for a wholesaler, it doesn't matter. We're not calculating that for them. We're just saying, as a wholesaler, that they're going to buy at 70% of the after repair value minus repair costs. We're going to put it under contract at 65%. That 5% difference is our wholesale fee. And so let's say after repair value is $400,000. That 5% is $20,000. And so we're going to make our $20,000, and then it's up to them to calculate their own closing costs. Now, if you're a cash buyer and you want to calculate your closing costs, again, it depends on how you're going to finance the property. But closing costs on average is generally, it could be as high as 5%. It could be as low as 2%. So between 2 and 5%, depending on how you're financing. If you're just if you're a cash buyer and you're splitting the transfer and recordation, it's going to cost you about 2%. If you're buying a property and you're getting a hard money loan, then it's going to be closer to 5% as your total price. 5% of the sales price.
Okay. Greg, Brian Chase has a couple of questions. So Brian was recently doing some due diligence on an auction property that was bank owned. And this question is after the fact, but he tracked down the previous owner and he was more than willing to share his knowledge of the property. Do you think, is that an acceptable practice, your opinion?
Yeah. So you said Brian tracked down the owner of a property
that was bank owned.
That was bank owned.
Right.
I mean, there's certain information. I mean, I've never done that, but there's certain information that you can get from an owner if you're buying the property that they used to own. If I'm
right.
reading the question or answering the question correctly. And so he tracked down the owner of a property that was auctioned off already. Is that what he's saying?
Maybe it's getting ready to, but I guess the fact is that the guy was more than willing to share his knowledge of the property. Was this an acceptable practice? Maybe the question is, would you do that?
I've never done
that. Why not? Is it a waste of time, in your opinion?
It sounds like it's kind of after the fact, but there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong doing that, right. But I've never done it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Have you ever done that, Karen?
No. Keith would tell me that it's not good lead generating activities. Next.
Well, I just think, we got to get in front of people or get in front of that deal as often as we can. So.
Yeah. Well, hey, Keith, just do me one favor. Read me the question one more time. I just want to make sure I understand it.
Okay. I was recently doing some due diligence on an auction property that was bank owned. This question is after the fact, but I tracked down the previous owner and he was more than willing to share his knowledge of the property.
I would say that there's nothing wrong with contacting the owner. If you're going to bid on that property, the owner just lost the property, you want to bid on it. You want to make sure that your bid is correct. You want to know the condition of the property, how's the electrical, how's the plumbing, how's the HVAC, that kind of thing on a property that you really can't see. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's what we don't want to do. And here's what I see a lot. I see a lot of investors overanalyzing deals. And so it's not to say that Brian's overanalyzing or getting too much information or having analysis paralysis, but let's not get too caught up in the details. Let's make sure that, we take action. But to get the information, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with to make sure that your offer or your bid is precise. And so Brian is saying, he shared with me some water issues that was not identified in the picture. I did not bid as a result. So there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. There's absolutely nothing wrong with getting more information, because I will tell you, especially if you're flipping a property, most people, when they flip properties, believe it or not, they lose money because there's change orders, there's things that they didn't foresee. And so if Brian wants to take the extra step to get more information, nothing wrong with that.
Good. Good. Greg, how do you find a property owner's name when the property is in a trust?
Let's bring in our legal analyst and get her to answer that question.
Hi, good evening. I didn't hear the question.
Tarsha, let me repeat. So how do you find a property owner's name when the property is in a trust?
You probably have to look at the documents that are filed with the state to determine, who the trustee is. It's usually a trustee that is appointed as the representative of the trust. And so you'll have to determine who the trustee is. They're going to be beneficiaries of the trust, but it's most likely the trustee that can make the decisions for the trust.
Okay, very good. Here's a question from yesterday, Tarsha. Another one of Brian Chase, our Platinum Coaching student, asked, when you acquire property through a DSCR loan or other hard money using your LLC, how do you refinance to a conventional loan under your LLC? Brian is saying that he heard it can't be done.
So I think conventional implies that it's so there are two ways to think about a conventional loan. One would be just a permanent loan that's for a long term. And so the typical long-term loan is a 30-year fixed rate loan. And so if that's what he means by conventional, then you can definitely go to lenders who will offer you long-term financing and allow you to do so in the name of your LLC. When he refers to a conventional loan, he likely means those that are backed by the government. So conventional loans are backed by Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. And so in those circumstances, you have to purchase the property in your LLC. In your individual name, not the LLC. One could suggest that post-closing, you could at some point convert into the LLC, convert ownership of the property into the LLC. Just be mindful, though, of, any provisions in the loan agreements that you sign that might prevent you from doing so, or alternatively, if the jurisdiction that you're in, the city, the state, will view that as a taxable event and will charge you taxes on either the principal balance or some portion of the principal balance of the mortgage. And that can be a hefty amount. And so just be mindful of that.
Okay, Tarsha, the second part to that is if it is correct, is the only option to apply for a conventional loan with personal information only?
So no, because he mentioned DSCR, which is debt service coverage ratio loans, which basically rely on the debt service of the property, meaning the rental income of the property, and compare the rental income to the mortgage payment, and whatever that ratio is will dictate the terms of the loan. So you're basically looking at the financials of the property and not relying on your income to qualify for the loan. And when you do so, then you're not looking at income at all. You're not looking at your personal income. You're not looking at your personal information, only to the extent that it involves your credit score. So not your debt, not anything reflecting what your monthly debt is or your income. They will consider your credit score because they want to see what your payment history is. Like, do you pay your bills on time? And then they'll also look potentially at your past performance as an investor to see whether you have rental income from other properties or not. So some lenders will want to see that you're an established landlord, or if you're not, then they're going to bake that into the cost of the loan.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. Thank you for that, Tarsha.
Well, Keith, I got a couple. I have a couple questions for Tarsha.
Okay.
And so, Tarsha, we ran into a seller today who wants to sell the property. The numbers don't work because, number one, he's got a $13,000 water bill, and he says he owes over $200,000 in, I believe it was property taxes. Is there any way to reduce either one of those numbers?
To reduce the property taxes or the water bill?
He says that you can negotiate with the water company and they'll come down. I haven't heard of it. And then in terms of the property taxes, is there any way to work anything out with this? I guess it would be the property taxes would be the county. Have you seen that at all in terms of either a payment plan or anything like that for either?
Well, I mean, you can always attempt to negotiate with a utility company if you have outstanding debt. The problem is when you go to sell, or when the seller wants to convey the property to another owner, that is a lien that's going to be on the property. And so that full amount is going to have to be resolved before the property can convey, and you can convey clear marketable title. And so if even if you have a payment plan, that might not address marketable title. That might not help you with conveying clear title to the person or the entity that's purchasing the property. And so you'd have to get a release from that liability before you can convey clear title to somebody who's purchasing the property. So that would be the issue. So whether you can enter into a payment plan won't really matter, because that utility company or the city might not give you a release until it's fully paid off. I have not seen a current owner,
like an offer and compromise to get the release. Have you seen that on either one, the property taxes or the water?
I haven't seen it on property taxes on the water when it's the current owner. What I've seen is that if the current owner defaults and now they foreclose on the property, either because there's a tax sale or there's a lien that was never paid off, I have seen the city forgive all of the debt or write the debt off their books so that the buyer can purchase the property. But that is different than when the current owner is trying to get a release when there are large amounts of monies owed on the property. And it's very unlikely. I have not seen that, because they'll go all the way to court. They'll file an action in court. They'll attach the judgment to the property. And then that judgment would have to be released in order to convey clear marketable title.
Okay. Yeah. So I think he knows all of this. He owns the property free and clear. He only wants $7,000. After repair value on the property is about $400,000. He only wants $7,000. But the problem is, he owes $225,000 in property taxes.
Wow.
And so I was just trying to figure out a way to get those property taxes reduced some. And if we could do that, then I could creatively do a deal with him. And where we would keep the property in his name, if we could get some type of release, renovate the property and then sell it and then pay off whatever the balance of the water bill or the taxes are. Because now, if he conveys the property, say to me, those things would need to be taken care of.
Right.
Is that an example of a subject to opportunity?
It wouldn't be a subject to because there's no mortgage. And so a
That's right.
subject
Free
to
and clear.
is we're buying a property subject to the existing mortgage. It's similar, but it would probably be more like a either owner financing or something like that. And so, Tarsha, can you write this down and just do some research on this for me for the benefit of the group?
Next.
For the benefit of Celebrate Settlements getting the title work on this mess.
What's that song Ariana Grande sings? Like, next.
I'm not familiar with her. All right, what else you got, Key?
So, Greg, speaking of a subject to, can you give us a quick example of a subject to deal that you did? And the question also is, do you actually reference the term subject to with the sellers?
So yeah, so when you're explaining it to the sellers, you do make that reference. You give them the scenario of I will take over the mortgage payments for a certain period of time. Let's just say it's 6 months. I will bring your mortgage current. I will make the mortgage payments. I will renovate the property once you move out. And then after I renovate the property, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to give you, for example, $5,000 for signing the contract, another $5,000 when you come to settlement to sign off, and everything else will be mine. We have a subject to agreement that I'm going to ask you to sign. And so that's basically it. And so, I've done a number of these. I think Tarsha has too. And so it's a great way. We taught a class, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago, on creative financing strategies. And that was one of the strategies. This is my favorite strategy. It's a lot more to it than what I just said, but that's the gist of it. We're going to take over someone's mortgage. Now, here's the key, and I've said it 2 or 3 times already tonight. The numbers still have to work. So even in a subject to, the numbers have to work. And you do a subject to because the numbers don't work. But if you didn't have to go through that first settlement and pay closing costs on that first settlement and get a loan and pay the fees on that loan, now the deal is a little more attractive. And so, but their mortgage balance and all the other fees still has to fit that Mayo formula. And so, for example, if the after repair value in a property is $400,000, the mortgage balance is $300,000, then that's not a good deal. We're not doing a subject to on that. So you've got to include. But if let's say the after repair value is $400,000, let's say the mortgage balance is about $160,000, and let's say renovations is about $30,000. Now you're at $190,000. And you've got to pay in total, let's just say, for example, $10,000 to the homeowner. Now you're at $200,000. And then with closing costs on the back, with closing costs on the back end, and it just comes up, let's just say to $210,000, $220,000. After repair value is $400,000. Now it's a good deal. And so those are the ones that we do. But subject to means we're buying a property subject to the existing mortgage. We're keeping that existing mortgage on the property. We're going to bring it current. We're going to make the payments. The only downfall that Tarsha probably would say is there's a clause in the note that says that the bank could call the loan. Tarsha would say that. Is a due on sale clause.
Keith, can you help me, please?
Yeah.
Save me, please.
Next question. Greg Valley has a question here. Is there any reason to notice and acknowledge a property with a high property tax bill? You may have answered a little bit of this already. In other words, she's saying, what should one think if the tax history is in 2020, they owed 20,000, 2021, they owed 4,000. Is there an opportunity or is it a lengthy process like it is for probate? Is it something that you would go after?
And so what she's really saying is, in the last 3 years, each year the county has gone up on the property taxes. So and I don't think it's every year. I think it's every 2 years that they do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the county is just saying that they think that the house is worth more than the previous year. That's all that means. And so, and as far as investors are concerned, like us, we don't even look at that. I don't even look at that. It doesn't matter to me what the county thinks the house is worth. It doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is what the like-kind properties are selling for in that area, so I can get the after repair value, and what a cash buyer is going to pay for the property running the Mayo formula. In terms of, the tax value, we take a peek at it, but we don't really, or what they're paying in taxes, we don't really look at it. I'll look at the tax value. And so what the county does is they'll take the tax value and they have a certain percentage of that tax value. Let's say they value a property at $350. They have a certain percentage of that $350 that they're going to charge you for property taxes. Mm-hmm. And every 2 years, it should go up. Now we during the recession, we would see it going down. And then if it wasn't, you could petition for it to go down and they would bring it down. But we generally see it, hopefully, in an appreciating market, that you're going to owe more taxes because the county's going to think that your property value is going to go up. But as investors, we don't really look to see what the homeowner is actually paying in taxes. All we really care about is getting that homeowner's name, their number, calling them, see if they're interested in selling. And there's never a question of how much are you paying, trying to put them under contract according to the Mayo. And then if we're wholesaling, assigning that, if we're buying and holding or fixing and flipping, getting our financing and get to the settlement table.
All right. Greg, I've got one more question from Karen. Karen wants to know, when a personal representative is being reassigned by the court and the temporary personal representative is an attorney, do I have to wait until the new permanent personal representative is assigned? She's looking at a house that's in pre-foreclosure.
I would say you have to wait. I mean, I'll let Tarsha respond. But I have signed contracts with who I thought was a personal representative. And then when the new personal representative came, they said my contract was null and void. Then, of course, that new personal representative went and got their own buyer. But and so I don't know, Tarsha, is that correct?
Well, I think the question I would ask is, where is the estate in the process of the proceedings? And so, and why is a temporary personal representative appointed? And ultimately, what's the disposition of the property? Like where is it in the process? So if the court has approved the sale has permitted the sale of a property, and whoever the temporary personal representative is permitted to sell the property, then you're good to go. But it sounds like if that's been put on hold, or the pause button is pressed on whether the property can be sold, then regardless of who the PR is, you're going to have to wait.
So I think I'm going to have to wait. The homeowner passed away. Her son was appointed as the personal representative. In reading the history on the Register of Wills, he misappropriated some money. So he's in the process of being removed, and they put in the attorney. I spoke with the attorney today, so he let me know that he's now the temporary personal representative. They will be willing to sell the property, but they're reassigning. So I guess I still have to wait.
Like I said, I think you have to wait because I've experienced this about 2 or 3 times, and they threw the new personal representative threw my contract out.
Okay. All right. So that's in my follow-up pile.
Okay. That's good that you have a follow-up pile.
I do.
Yeah.
All right, let's we've got a couple of questions. What is the best way to target leads for listings? And so I think that it's the same as our strategy for investing. As a matter of fact, we have a marketing strategy where we send out postcards that say we buy houses. We have virtual assistants calling a list of absentee owners. We do text message marketing to sellers, motivated sellers. We do email marketing to motivated sellers, and a few other things to motivated sellers. And what actually comes back to us, the majority of the leads that come back to us are listings. And so keep in mind, both if you want listings as a real estate agent, you're going after the sellers, and in some cases motivated sellers. If you're trying to go after motivated sellers as an investor, it's almost the same marketing strategy. And so that's what I would do. Now, as an agent, the strategy is just a little different because you can go after expired listings. You can send postcards to a targeted area, but we do that as well as investors. And so it's the same strategy. So if you want to target, let's say, either a particular neighborhood, subdivision, you can easily get a list and send postcards there. That same list, you can skip trace, send that list to, like, I use REI Skip, and they'll send back in like an hour or two the phone numbers and the email addresses of those homeowners, and then you can send out an email marketing campaign. We use text message marketing, and so that's how you target listings. And at the same time, you're targeting motivated sellers, and so you're going to get listings if you're consistent with it, but you're also going to get investment opportunities. Let's see. So if a home has been foreclosed on, is there a way to find out what bank owns it? If a house has been foreclosed on, I think you can get that. Do any of you guys know? Do you know, Tarsha?
Yeah, I mean, the land records will show who the trustee is, and it will show who the bank is that had the note on the property, and who the trustee is acting on behalf of the bank. It's in the land records.
And how do they get access to the land records?
If it's in Maryland, you just go to Maryland Land Records, you create an account, and then you can search based on property address, owner name, and you do a little bit of digging, and you can see the deed of trust on title.
Okay. All right. So Derek is saying it says auctions want 10% or something like that, right? If I'm bidding for the purpose of wholesaling, how would you address that? And so I actually, Derek, you must have got on late. I addressed that earlier. You just bake that into the numbers. Now, in most cases, well, I have seen 10%, but the majority of the time I've seen 5%. And so basically, as a wholesaler on an auction property, if you're using 60% of the after repair value minus repair costs, then you bake in that 5%, and you're going to try to buy it at 55%. Or as a wholesaler, if you're wholesaling at 65% of the after repair value minus repair costs, if you want to buy it at 65%, and then there's a 5% buyer's premium or commission, you bake it in, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to buy this property at 60%. So you're already going to count that 5% into your numbers. So now you're buying at 60% of the after repair value minus repair costs. And so you just take, again, 400,000 times 60%, which is, I think, 240,000, minus 800,000 in repair costs, should give you about 160,000 that you would offer on that house. You've already included that 5%. That math was pretty good in my head, wasn't it?
Right.
Greg, can we go back to the previous question? PropStream also will tell you the deed of trust in their information as well.
That's what I thought. Okay, so Valerie's asking, when conversing with an owner who wants to know about options, what should the investor who's interested in wholesaling say? And so I'm glad Valerie asked that question. And so for the purposes of this meeting right here, and the purposes of our group, our Platinum Coaching Program, and for the purposes of your investor strategy, you're a wholesaler. You want to wholesale real estate. So you're a wholesaler. Now, to the public, you are not a wholesaler. You're a buyer. You want to buy the property. The homeowner never needs to know that you're going to wholesale their property, because if they know that, they're not going to take less to let you make more. And so you're a buyer. You want to buy the property. Now, in the contract, they're going to sign. Our contract says twice in there that you may assign the contract, because one of the first paragraph says that you, Valerie, and you put your name as the buyer. Then it says in or assigns, so which means you're the buyer or whoever you assign it to. And then I think in like paragraph 8, it says that you have the right to assign the contract. And so when you're negotiating, you guys, whether you're wholesaling, primarily if you're wholesaling, when you're negotiating with the motivated seller, you never ever say that you're a wholesaler and you're going to assign the contract. You're the buyer. Now, again, it's nothing illegal, because in the contract twice, it's going to state that you have the right to assign. And then in most cases, to be honest with you, they never know that you're assigning the contract. But even if they do know, and in most cases, they don't care. As long as they get their money, they don't care. But when we wholesale, the seller doesn't even know. But sometimes, Valerie, I will say that either I'm going to buy this or one of my partners are going to buy, or I may buy with one of my partners, is what I say sometimes. But there's really no need to even say that. We're negotiating and you're going to put your name on the contract, it's going to say, our contract will say in or assignee, and then that's it. But we never say that we're a wholesaler. That never comes up. The only thing that comes up, honestly, 90% of the time is, I want to buy your house for $200,000. They want to sell it for $230,000. Let's either meet in the middle. Let's negotiate. Let's get to that bottom line number. Let's negotiate that. And so once you've got the negotiation, everything else is just a breeze. So that's the only thing I want you to think about, is the negotiation part. Any of you guys want to add anything to that?
I agree. I think that when you're having that conversation, it's about, getting to the finish line and ensuring that they know that you're the cash buyer or that you have cash buyers. But when it comes to strategies, whether it's going to be subject to or owner take back, that's a conversation that, that's not even my business as the wholesaler. That's what the cash buyer is going to do. So I would say don't put too much into the conversation to talk yourself out of the deal.
And most investors do. Most investors talk themselves out of making money versus making money. So here, I think we've answered all the questions. Here's a couple of things I just want to kind of reiterate. Again, it's been a great year. We've had a lot of successes, a lot of wins. A lot of you guys are building wealth. A lot of you guys are learning how to build wealth. And so, one thing that Karen speaks a lot of, and listening to her speak, is mindset and taking action. And so that's what we've got to do in 2023. Smartly, we don't want to get out there and make mistakes. We need to know that the market is changing. There's less, listen to me when I say this, you guys, there's less cash buyers out here than, let's say, 6 months ago, than a year ago, than 2 years ago. There's less cash buyers because the market has changed. Cash buyers are having a difficult time as we speak, getting financing, selling their properties, because they bought them wrong, because they bought their properties 6 months to a year ago, because the Mayo formula said this is the after repair value, and now the after repair value has changed. It's tougher for buyers to get financing to buy the property. So the industry, the real estate investing industry, I've noticed in the last 30 days has changed. Now, a lot of my investor friends, some of them are suffering. And so lucky for me, I don't have any projects out that I'm flipping that I got caught up into that, but I have in the past got caught up in market shifts.
So Greg, just to that point, are they failing kind of primarily because they're not following the formula?
No, it's just because the market shift. They did follow the formula 6 months to a year ago. Formula said, for example, that ARV was 800. What was once 800 is a property that a ton of people have looked at in Hillcrest in Southeast DC. ARV says 825. Had said 825, let's say 6 months ago. You can't get a cash buyer to buy that property because ARV now is about, I'll say 735, 750. And so the market has shifted. Less buyers, interest rates are up, that kind of thing. So be careful. Another thing that I've seen, you guys, and I want you to be careful about this, because of the market shift, as wholesalers, let's be happy in where we are. I think I just read today that interest rates have gone up
0.5.
Yeah, half a point. I think I read that. I think I read that today.
I read it. Yeah.
And so, as wholesalers, I'll total transparency. I probably over the last year or two averaged about $30,000 a wholesale fee. Right now, I'm happy to get 15,000, half of that. That's how much the market has changed. Happy to get $10,000 to keep it moving. And so I want you guys to change your mindset in terms of, what you're expecting on wholesale deals, because there's less cash buyers out here. They're skittish, they're nervous, they don't know where the market is headed, and so they still want to buy because this is their livelihood, but they're cautious. They're cautious of where they're buying at. I do want you guys to know what your marketing strategy is going to be in the new year. We talked about a number of things already. We hit a lot about PropStream, but know what that marketing strategy is. Is it going to be calling and getting lists from various places like PropStream? Is it going to be driving for dollars? Is it going to be postcards? Is it going to be hiring virtual assistants to make the calls for you, like what we do? Bandit signs, social media. Know exactly what the one or two things it's going to be to get these leads. And then also know about, once you get the leads and able to negotiate a deal, what are you going to do with it? What's your exit strategy on that one particular deal? You're going to wholesale it, you're going to fix and flip it, or you're going to buy and hold. At least one along the way, I'd like for you to buy and hold. Now, if you're going to fix and flip and buy and hold, how are you going to finance it? Let's make sure you've got that financing intact. You can contact Tarsha, and she's happy to sit down with you before you even get started, just to go over, your finances, because the financing world is a lot different now than it was, say, 6 months ago or a year ago. It's completely different. And so you've got to. Oftentimes we put the cart before the horse, and so let's just make sure we've got the financing down pat, because interest rates have gone up. There's different programs now for investors, so let's make sure that we know what we're doing if we're buying and holding. Joint ventures and partnering. Make sure that you've got something that you can bring to the table so that you can do deals with partners. Partners need money, cash. They need someone that may have good credit, someone that can find deals, someone that maybe has a crew that can renovate properties. And so you want to be a good partner, but in order to be a good partner or someone with experience, you got to bring something to the table. What do you bring to the table? And so whatever that is, when I was young, 23, 24 years old, I didn't have a lot of money, but one thing I had was a lot of hustle. So my one thing, and I'm 23 years old, I'm going to be the best person at finding deals. So I found deals, and honestly, finding the deals is the gold. That's the gold, because if you can find deals, you've got options. You can now wholesale. I didn't do a lot of wholesaling, but you can wholesale. You can partner. So what I did back then in my 20s and 30s was I would partner with people. I had the gold, and I said, okay, I've got the deal. You put up the financing and let's go. And so I flipped a lot of properties years ago doing that. So partnering, joint ventures, that needs to be part of your strategy going into the new year. And then, like I said, just simply knowing what you're doing, having that big goal, and then having big models and big habits. And then with all of that, we're going to have a big life, and we're going to have a big year. And 2023 needs to be our biggest year ever. Like, for all of us, 2023 needs to be better than 2022. A lot of you guys had lots of success in 2022, but 2023 needs to be our best. It is not going to be our best year ever if we sit idly by and do nothing. We've got to do something. And so what is that something? You've got to write it down. Now, Friday, I'm going to go over at the Greenbelt Library at 11 o'clock. We're having a lunch and learn. And three of my top agent investors are going to be there. Leon is going to be there. He's going to talk a lot about his successes with his Airbnb business this year and his just building his buy and hold portfolio. Marquise is going to be there to talk about his successes with wholesaling this year. And Steve Queen will be there. He's done a lot of fix and flips and just a little bit of everything for Steve. Steve just bought last week a buy and hold in Greenbelt. And so we'll talk about his latest deals. And so you guys need to be there, because the other part that we haven't talked about is, and I know we're over time, is the networking. Like, we've got to network with each other and learn from each other and talk to each other and be around sort of, and it's an old cliche, but it's true. Like, your network is your net worth, or your net worth is your network, or somebody correct me. One of those.
Network is your net worth.
Okay. All right. So any closing words? Karen?
Just take action, work through your obstacles. Mindset is everything. And then just one more nugget from Keith in my pivotal conversation in August is that since I have my website, I put it on everything. Postcards, emails that I send out, personal emails I send out. You just got to do it, but you got to know what you want to do and just do it.
All right. How about you, Keith? Any last words?
I just would add the word obsessed. We got to be obsessed with our goals. I'm more motivated now than ever, not only to help our coaching students, but to realize my goals and my dreams. But I think we got to be obsessed. You touched on, Greg, writing it down. And I believe that we have to write it down. We've already got competing interest out there. We're raising families, paying bills. We've got to fit in our investing goals and dreams and aspirations too. We've got to, as one said, we've got to eat, sleep, breathe, and poop our goals often throughout the week, throughout the day, throughout the month.
No, I agree. We all have our own aspirations. We want to live a great life. We want to go on like fabulous vacations to like fabulous places like
Jamaica
and other places. Like, we want to have a fabulous life, but here's the thing: we want to make sure we can afford it. We want to make sure that whatever we do, we can afford it. And so 2003, we want to make sure that we work hard. So our vacations and everything, like, we're really going to go for it. Any closing words, Tarsha?
Yeah, be mindful of your associations.
Well, I will say this, Tarsha, it's you're the best. That's all I can say. I'll just leave it there. You're
I say be mindful of your associations and really think long and hard about the people that you're around, and make sure that it kind of aligns with your personal goals, and think really big. Think bigger than yourself, and don't think that you can't do something that's grand. Like, don't think that you can't. If you want to buy one house, try to buy 10. Try to think in your mind you're going to buy 10 houses. Or if you want to buy single family houses, think, no, I'm going to buy multifamily houses. But then you have to go and find the people who also think that way and think bigger than you. Don't be like the smartest person in your circle.
Right.
Be the person that doesn't know that much in your circle and learn from everybody around you. And then don't be the richest person in your circle. Like, be the one that's striving to be like everybody else, because that's what your network is. Your net worth really means is that if you're around people that are smarter than you or that are smarter than you, you're just going to become smarter. If you're around people that have more money than you, then you're going to end up having just as much of that as they do or more. And so I say think really, really big, but then put the measures in place to accomplish those goals, and don't let anybody stop you. So be very mindful of the people that you're around.
Well
Okay.
said.
And then like Keith said, be obsessed with the process.
Mm-hmm.
Be obsessed with. All right, you guys, we've kept you guys. This must have been some good stuff. Everyone stayed on, so that's good.
Yeah.
Again, we apologize for yesterday, but that won't happen again. We got that fixed. And so, look, you guys, happy holidays. We will be around, and so you guys know how to get a hold of us if you guys have properties that you want us to take a look at, want me to vet for you. Let's not wait until January, which is 2 more weeks, to get started. Let's start now. Let's start today. The marketing is the key. The lead generation is the key. Hopefully we'll see you guys on Friday at the Lunch and Learn, but let's get going. 2023 is going to be our best year ever. We are going to dominate in 2023. All of us collectively, we're going to dominate. All right, you guys. Thank you, Tarsha, Keith, Karen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
God bless and have a good night. Happy holidays, guys.
Merry Christmas.